I told you guys we'd be talking more about Russ Callaway becoming OC, right? Here's some changes he might make to the offense.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Happy Friday. I am Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI. And today we're going to talk more about Russ Callaway coming in as the offensive coordinator or getting promoted to offensive coordinator. We'll break out the whiteboard in the second segment for a little bit, not too much, and then a little bit in the third segment as well. Just because I do think that there's some stuff that's just better presented visually. You're not going to be left out if you're an audio listener, but it will help you if you are a video watcher, I guess. But last week, we got the announcement, right? Last week it came out that Billy Napier was promoting Russ Callaway from tight ends coach / co-offensive coordinator to offensive coordinator. And again, I will say two big things about that, right? One, I feel like he kind of had to give him just the full OC title because Rob Sale essentially took a demotion. Right? Rob Sale essentially took a demotion from offensive line coach / co-OC down to just offensive line coach, which meant that there were no co-OCs because there was only one person with a co-OC tag, and that doesn't make any sense if you don't have an offensive coordinator. So I will say that that's one thing that gives me, and I say that just to say that I feel like it maybe is one of the reasons I'm not like going nuts about it. Just because I don't know if this was truly you're the OC or if this was you're the OC. We don't have another co-OC, so by default you can't be a co-OC if it's just you, right? So by default you're the OC now, no longer co-OC. And so that's one of the reasons I don't go nuts about the hiring. But also there's another thing that, or not one of the reasons that I don't go nuts about the hiring, but there's another important thing to acknowledge, which is Billy Napier has said time and time again that he is expecting to continue calling the plays and that's his plan, right? He's like, I'm going to keep calling plays. I call plays. That's what I do. I call plays. That's what I'm going to do. I got here calling plays, so I'm going to keep calling plays, and I'm going to keep calling plays, by the way. And it was his whole thing. But all of that was before the official announcement, right, of Russ Callaway being offensive coordinator. And I'm going to honestly, until we see them come out and we see Billy Napier being the guy calling plays, I'm going to keep hoping. I'm going to keep hoping that Billy Napier will eventually, hopefully, again, like hopefully in the spring, they're like, hey, let's let's have our scrimmages. You're going to call the plays, right? You call the plays for our scrimmages, and we'll see how it goes. If you do well, if you're impressive enough, then maybe we'll consider giving up play calling duties. I can tell you factually, there were times during the 2024 season where Russ Callaway called plays. And that's not a big secret. Billy Napier just words it differently. He goes, "Oh yeah, it was a collaborative effort there." When people go, "Who's calling plays?" He goes, "Ah, it's a collaborative effort. A little bit of here, a little bit of there." Part of that is that Russ Callaway was calling plays at certain points in the season. Okay, I'm not saying for full games. I don't know that, but I do know that there were at least, hey, this next drive, it's you. The rest of this game, it's you. Whatever it may be. It wasn't complete games, but there were times where he called some plays. So I will continue to hold out hope that based on that from last year, hopefully in the spring saying, hey, call plays for our scrimmage, this offense versus that offense. Like you'll call plays for this one, I'll call plays for the other, or you call plays for this one. someone else will give a shot to call plays in that one, whatever it may be. Hopefully, and through fall ball, hopefully Billy Napier will go, you know what? I think it's time. I think you've shown enough. Let's let you call plays. And hopefully that will be a thing that happens for the Florida Gators. But even if it doesn't, let's say Billy Napier continues to do the hard headed thing and doesn't give Russ Callaway play calling duties. Russ Callaway will have more say in the offense and more control over the offense than he ever has. Because yeah, I get it. You could say, oh, he just gave him from co-OC to OC and he didn't give him play calling duties. That's no difference. Yes, it is. Okay. Russ took over offensive meetings last year. Not every offensive meeting, but he took over offensive meetings last year. That's important, right? To be able to lead the team in that way. That's important. He's got that experience already. And it wouldn't shock me if this year during the season, the whole time, he was leading more of the offensive meetings. Okay. Part of it is developing a game plan and figuring out, hey, this is how we can attack this defense. They go, I don't care. They're blitz heavy. We're gonna attack them this way. And I think that Russ will have more of a say in that. And I do think that because of that, we will see this offense take on a few more air raid concepts that we've already seen some of, and also some of Billy Napier's offense has a little bit of, I don't want to say Billy Napier's offense has air raid to it, but like an air raid twang. Like one of the most common plays in the air raid is Y cross, which is that crossing route over there. And sometimes for Billy Napier, he loves that crossing route, right? We saw Ricky Pearsall eat on it. We saw Chim DK eat on it. Like we saw that crossing route that Napier loves so much. That's introduced and popularized by the air raid. Everyone does it at this point, right? But it was introduced and popularized modernly by the air raid. And I'm not saying that Russ is responsible for bringing that in. Of course, that's been a Billy Napier thing that he's always looked to. So I'm not saying that's Russ bringing that in, but I am saying that that's an air raid. Again, we'll say a homestead. I guess I don't know. I don't know the word for it, but it's good thing I don't get paid to talk, right? But that's from the air raid, and I do think that having that as well as some of the air raidy things that Florida introduced last year, I think that can help you. Okay, I think that can help Russ kind of make a case and say, hey, this is another thing we should add. Okay. And I think that one of the most important plays that you'll see added, one of the most important concepts that you'll see added with again an air raid twang to it, we'll say, would be mesh, right? Mesh is one of the most commonly called plays in football. It is. I mean, some teams just they go, hey, if we're in this situation, we're gonna bread and butter that mother, you know what? And we're gonna run mesh until we can't run mesh. We're going to run mesh until they stop it. We're going to run mesh until this. We're going to run mesh until that. And we're going to talk about mesh. I talked about it a bit earlier this week, and I know I was like, hey, let me describe it because I know people don't get it. We got the whiteboard out, okay? We got the whiteboard. We're going to talk about mesh when we get back with Locked On Gators. Life moves fast, especially when you have a family. One day, you're watching your kids take their first steps, and before you know it, they're off to college. That's why securing their future is so important. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to get term life insurance that fits your family's needs. With Fabric, you can apply for term life insurance online right from your couch. You could be covered in under 10 minutes, and in many cases, no health exam is required at all. Okay? Fabric also offers free digital wills and access to investment accounts to help you plan for your child's future. Life's hard. Make it easier, right? I'm just saying that's my personal opinion as a former baby myself. I'm going to say life's hard. Make it easier. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their families. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. That's meetfabric, MEET, fabric.com/lockedoncollege. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company. Not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. And we're talking mesh, okay? Mesh is, I think, the most popular air raid concept. I don't think many people would even argue that with you, just because it is. Like we talk about it all the time, and there's different variations of mesh, right? There's mesh where you got the outside guys running go routes. You got the running back running a wheel route. Mesh rail is one of the more increasingly commonly popular called plays right now, especially as a defense if they're more aggressive. If I feel like I've got your linebacker in man coverage on my running back and I'm not too confident about the safety help, I'll run mesh rail. I'll have my outside guy running a post to go right up into the safety. Safety either sticks with him, and I got mesh rail. My running back, the rail is running back running that wheel route. I'll have mesh rail, and my running back's running up the sideline. And your safety is either already with my receiver, in which case he can't make a play on my running back, or he sees my running back and he can't make a play on my receiver. And that's just like the air raid is meant to create conflict in space, right? It's not all about let's just mash people together. Let's just throw the football 70 times again. It's about creating easy completions, yards after catch, and creating consistent conflict defenders. We've talked about conflict defenders a lot when we talk about the RPO. Lincoln Riley's an RPO air raid guy. He's both. He's like, hey, you know what? I love conflict. Give me more of it. And he just creates it. And we've talked about conflict defenders before, and the air raid is meant to find a conflict defender and attack it. And you got to be smart to run the air raid, by the way. Like it's simple reads, but you have to be right in order for it to be effective. And you have to be right consistently in order for it to be effective, because sometimes you're just going to have 4 guys running hitches. Hell, sometimes you might have 5 guys running hitches, and you got to hit the right one at the right time to at least gain something. And it gets difficult at times, right? So mesh, we got the board up here. Okay, we're gonna point to the board there. So mesh right here, this is the mesh where these inside receivers are running basically right past each other, right? They've got to be at least a similar depth, because otherwise, if one's running up here or one's running down here, it doesn't actually create a mesh point at all, right? Your mesh right here, that's what you're looking at. And so you can create a pick play right here. Like if they're in zone coverage and they're stepping up, you figure out what they're doing. If they're in man, you can run them right into each other. Very possible. It's also, I realize if you're looking at the outside guys, it just looks like I've got a fork drawn. That's just to show you that it varies what that outside route's going to be, right? It's not always going to be a go route. It'll be a go route. It could be a post. It could be a corner. You could do a lot with it. So I just wanted to throw that little fork there. And you'll also see that I got a little mark down here, right? That little mark on just that one receiver. We'll talk about that in a second. Okay. I'm going to put the board away for a second. But for a quarterback, it's about giving them easy reads, right? And it's about having your quarterback capable of making those easy reads and making the throw quickly. That's a big benefit when you have a kid like DJ Lagway as your quarterback, right? Like when you got the wonderkind there, it helps. You got elite arm talent. He seems like a smart person, right? And you got to figure, hey, if you just get comfortable in this system, we protect you, you're going to be able to do this quickly. And also, by the way, 2 major things there. One, you don't need to be protected for long. So Florida's offensive line, as experienced as they are and the chemistry they should have, protection should not be an issue in 2025. And 2, DJ Lagway has the very unique advantage, we'll say, that he can throw the football somewhat accurately, at least, with a good bit of velocity from just about any angle he wants to. Like we've seen the clip, right, of him taking the snap and throwing the screen completely submarine pitch style, right? We've seen that. He throws a screen to the flat beautifully. It's arrogant how insane he can throw the ball. It's crazy. I love it. And so you have that advantage where even through traffic, DJ Lagway can get the ball to his receivers. Again, at least somewhat accurately. I'm not saying he's the most deadly accurate quarterback you've ever seen, but getting the ball to his receivers with at least a chance to make a play is huge. Okay. And so there's a couple layers to this here. We'll pull up the whiteboard again here, and we'll talk about what actually could be the change here. So for Florida, if you're or for any quarterback in the air raid, easy completion underneath, catch and run opportunities are there. If you're the quarterback and you're reading man, also important to note, receivers also have to make the read here. Okay, not every receiver has to make the read, but receivers have to make the read. If you read man, you look at the crossers right at the smash point, and you can kind of pick whichever one has the bigger advantage, right? Like if I've got Tank right here and I've got Aiden Mizell right here, okay? Tank's gonna outrun anybody. Aiden Mizell's gonna outrun just about anybody. Like if I've got two guys that can just outrun you, I could just throw the ball to them underneath, give them catch and run opportunities. If I hit them in stride, they're gonna be able to go and outrun whoever they have, right? So that's one way to look at it. Obviously, I'm not saying that the starting slots will be Tank and Mizell. Trey Wilson will be one of them. But let's say you've even got, let's say this guy right here, that one, that's Trey. That's Mizell, we'll say. Sure. Or Tank, actually. We'll say that's Tank, so Mizell could be one of the outside guys. Trey is your man that he's making a read as a receiver, okay? If he reads zone, that's what this little mark is for, okay? This little line that I drew is not a mistake. This little line that I drew is if he reads zone, let's say it's, what can we do here? Let's say they're in, should we do cover three? We could do cover three. They're coming down, up, 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 down to the flat, up here, and then up here. If he sees that it's cover three, he can sit right here in this little zone and just squat and wait for the ball. If he sees that it's zone, that's going to be his read. Find a soft spot and sit there. So he does that. That's an easy completion. Maybe a catch and run. Maybe. But also it's important to just say, hey, maybe he just catches it and gets tackled right away. You pick up some kind of yards. Again, they're probably going to be running those, 4 to 6 yards downfield. So if you're reading man, you could say, hey, I'll throw it to the guy that I think has the bigger advantage, the better advantage. And if you read zone, you can say, hey, then he'll find a soft spot and he'll sit there. It's easy read, okay? Or it's an easy read because you kind of just look at your, like, let's say Trey is the guy that has the option to sit down. You could just watch him at the start. And if his man follows him, there you go. It's man coverage. If the guy lined up ahead of him just drops back and doesn't follow him when he runs underneath, it's zone coverage. Like it's an easy read for a quarterback. Again, that's what I'm saying. It's easy. You just have to be right with it. Okay. Like you just got to make a quick read, an easy read, and you have to be correct with it. Otherwise, it's going to really suck. But mesh is one of the most common plays in all of football right now. Again, because football right now, they're shifting more towards going back to power run game and just punching people in the mouth, which would benefit Florida. But also, they're trying to make things as easy as possible for the offense. And I don't just mean the rules. I mean that the coaches are trying to make things as easy as possible for the offense. That's why they're like, hey, we're going to create a bunch of conflict defenders. We'll pick who we want to attack and when, and that's what we'll do. Defenses, one of the biggest things they're trying to do is create pressure through disguised looks because guess what? Every offense is trying to make it easier for their quarterbacks. So the defense is trying to make it more difficult for the quarterbacks just to read. That's it, because that's what football's about right now. In the passing game, it's not about just who's faster, it's about who's smarter. Florida can take advantage of that with, again, what's one of the most popular called plays in football right now in mesh. I mentioned that there were some things we saw last year from Florida that I think we could see become more prominent that are already not just air raidy, but they are popular in air raid offenses. We'll talk about that when we get back with Locked On Gators. March basketball is almost here, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. Actually, the Florida Gators game tomorrow is March basketball. That's crazy. With PrizePicks, you pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. It's fast, easy, and keeps every game exciting. Say Walter Clayton threes, Cooper Flag rebounds, call it a day. Just walk away with money in your pocket, right? Just saying, could be a good suggestion. Download the app today. Use code Locked On College to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code Locked On College for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup with PrizePicks. PrizePicks, run your game. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free reference in the podcast and on YouTube. And I mentioned again that Florida brought out some air raidy things, and I don't mean that in the sense that only air raid offenses do it, but that air raid offenses tend to use it frequently and more frequently than other offenses. Because again, air raid, they throw the ball more, so they're going to use passing concepts more often. Who would have thought? But I'm interested to see if Russ Callaway's presence could improve running back usage in the passing game. Because last year, Florida's running backs, Montrell Johnson had 13 catches on 16 targets. Jaden Ball had 4 catches on 7 targets. Jacoby Jackson had 7 catches on 9 targets. And those were the only running back even targets in 2024. Okay? They had what? 32 targets. As a combined room, 32 targets and 24 catches. That's it for about 200 yards. I'm not doing the math on that one. It's like 170 actually. 173. I did the math on it. Damn. But that was it for running backs, right? Weren't a ton of catches, wasn't a ton of yards. Almost everything was in the backfield, and that's fine. Montrell Johnson, his average depth of target was 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Jaden Ball's was half a yard behind the line of scrimmage, and Jacoby Jackson's was half a yard past the line of scrimmage. It was all at the line of scrimmage, right? So Florida running backs caught the ball in space, and I'm fine with that, okay? We saw Florida in 2024 break out swing routes more throughout the 2024 season than we saw in 2022 or 2023, okay? And the swing route is, I'll draw it on the whiteboard. I'm not erasing anything else that I did in the last segment. But I'll draw it on the whiteboard where it's just the running back, just swing. That's it. Just swing into the flat. Just wait there. And we saw at one point last year, I think it was it Jaden Ball that scored the touchdown? I think he was the only running back that had a receiving touchdown last year. Yeah. Jaden Ball scored a touchdown on a swing pass, but it was a swing screen, which that's an air raid thing. I'll say that. But I'd love to see more of that with Florida's backs. Okay. Because the swing screen is usually, let's say the tackle block. You have the guard, center pull. You could have another one pull. You could figure it out with who's going to pull where and who's going to pull when. But basically, they all go. You throw it into the flat, and it's basically a run, right? It's basically, hey, you're running, but you're running from the sideline already. It's basically a run. You got your offensive lineman blocking for you. You got your running back catching the ball in the backfield and then running straight. I would love to see more of that, okay? Whether it's Jaden Ball, Jacoby Jackson, Katie Daniels, Trayon Webb, I don't care who it is. But throwing the ball to a running back in the flat on a swing route, on a swing screen specifically, or actually, screw it, not even swing screen specifically. I'll just say on a swing. I'm a fan of it, okay? I'm more of a fan of that than having the jet motion and then throw it to the receiver in the flat, okay? I'm more of a fan of that because I'm a big fan of putting running backs that have power, running backs that are mean, and running backs that can run with contact balance. I'm a big fan of putting those guys in space against defensive backs. Because I'll tell you what, there's a lot of corners that don't want to tackle a running back. Okay? There's a lot of corners that are like, hey, I'm going to try to tackle the running back once he catches the ball. Because once he gets moving, that man is bigger than me, and that's going to hurt, right? Because running backs are usually what? How big is Jaden Ball? Like 220-ish, right? 227. 227. DBs are what? 200 pounds? Like running backs are usually shorter than DBs because DBs are getting taller, so they're closer to 6'1", 6'2". So a running back that's shorter than him and heavier than him, definitely more built than him, just running into him in space, DBs don't like that, specifically corners. They don't like dealing with that, okay? So I'm a big fan of throwing the ball to a running back in the flat and just letting him run forward and essentially dare the corner to make a play. I love it. Okay. That's very airy. Like Mike Leach would do that all the time with like Kylan Hill, even at Mississippi State. They would throw it into the flat, let him make a play with it, would be huge. And for Florida, again, you got Jaden Barr, Jacoby Jackson are physical runners. I don't care if it's a swing screen or just again, and also that's the thing, by the way, with mesh, you can just have the running back go into the flat and wait for it and see what happens. Like if they're in cover 2 or cover 3, and you've got the running back going to the side that there's the receiver that can just sit and squat and wait. And guess what? Now that flat defender has to make a decision. He go toward the receiver that sat down, or does he go toward the running back? He's got to make a decision. More conflict. Yay! Big fan of it, right? I think that one area that Russ Callaway could really improve this team and really improve this offense is saying, hey, we're going to evolve the running back role as pass catchers, okay? We saw them work in pass protection last year. That's been a thing. Billy Napier's always going to have running backs in pass protection. I'm fine with it, honestly. Like I think if you can have them be effective in pass protection, that's huge for your offense and huge for them in the NFL, by the way. I'll say that as well. But also, if you can say, hey, just more check and releases, right? More of which we saw a lot last year was running back could see for a blitzer, try to pick up the blitzer, or running back could see, let's say he's on the right side of, or we'll say left side because you don't know who the right tackle is going to be. He's on the left side of the quarterback. Austin Barber's edge man is running wide around Austin Barber or to Austin Barber's outside shoulder. Running back could come in, just pop him one in the ribs, in the chest, whatever it may be, but just pop him one with his shoulder and then just leak out and be a check down option, which we saw again a lot. We saw that last year. So I would love to see more of that from Florida's running backs and get them more involved in the passing game. Okay. You got a guy with air raid background, air raid principles. Embrace it. He's your offensive coordinator. Embrace his offense, evolve your offense, and improve your offense. Get better. That's not a drastic change to the playbook. Yeah, that's just essentially just saying, hey, add mesh, which everyone usually knows how to run regardless. But just saying, hey, add mesh, and then do some other things more often than you did them last year. That's it. I'm not asking for drastic changes. I'm just trying to make your offense better, Billy. That's it. All I'm trying to do. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free, wherever it's in the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow after the Florida Gators basketball game. Hopefully, it's a win. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI, and I'll see you all next time.